Welcome to the all-new Marvel Roundup, the Southgate Media Group's guide to the Marvel Comics of the week. As always, I am Phil Parrish, and joining me is...
Charlie Esser!
Alright, we're on a timetable here, so we'll jump right in. I will start with all-new X-Men number 15. This one was kind of interesting, because I don't know if you remember what I told you last issue about there was a bunch of demons that were popping out of young Hank McCoy's lab, and they're attacking Cyclops. And this issue, like, the X-Men are mopping them up. And the interesting thing about this issue, Charlie, was when Hank McCoy pops out, he's like apologizing to Cyclops, and young Cyclops is like, he's like, "Oh, Hank, why are you messing with like black magic or whatever this is?" He's like, "Or is this trying to get us trying to get around the whole time travel thing?" And Hank McCoy's like, "Oh no, I solved the time travel thing." He says, "I've been home." And Cyclops is like, "What?" And Hank McCoy's like, "Yeah." He's like, I've been home, and what I found there was," and then he was like kind of interrupted, and he never got back to it.
Okay.
So it's like, what did he? Because supposedly this, unless they changed things, this wasn't like an alternate timeline before they came from, because in an issue like when they first came to the present, like young Cyclops got injured, I forget how, but his heart stopped beating for a second, and older Cyclops almost started like fading out, like Back to the Future style. So
Back to the Future style, yeah.
So like, what could have happened to the past that we don't know about?
Well, maybe. Well, I'm not sure what it is, because obviously I didn't read it and they didn't say, but if you really want to have an innocuous answer, it's just, I went back and we were already there, so I have to figure out exactly when we did go back, Yeah. Or I went back and we had no knowledge that we had left because, time splintered there, or something like that. I'm not quite sure.
Mm-hmm. Or maybe because they came. It was before Secret Wars when they came. It's been a few years since they time traveled. Maybe he went back and found out, like, I don't know, the timeline created new versions of themselves to heal itself. So they're kind of like out.
Oh, that's an interesting idea.
Like Darn Franklin.
Yeah.
But no, this one was really good. It was a thumbs up. It was a big thumbs up for me.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and then I guess I'll do Power Man and Iron Fist number 10. You could tell they're like kind of, they're playing off the whole Luke Cage on Netflix thing, because they had like flashbacks from like back in the day where Mariah Dillard and her cousin Cornell, they were part of like I don't know if it's like a gang or a group, but they were like in a gang with like Tombstone and a couple other guys.
Yeah.
But
so I saw the preview for that. I saw that it had the old picture of the old gang.
Mm-hmm.
Did they have a Pops?
No. No. And Cornell's like kind of like older in this. He's got like the gray hair and stuff.
Okay.
But and then Luke and Danny like get a lot of the heroes together and tell them about this thing they found. Like it's software that can like crack like any like criminal record, or it can even create a criminal record for someone who doesn't have one. And for some reason it doesn't have it had like a mystical defense when they had someone try to like trace it back to its source. It was really weird. Weird. And then they're like, "Oh yeah, Tombstone's losing territory, and there's a new rival. Guess who's trying to swallow up some of Tombstone's territory?"
Hammerhead.
No, the Black Cat.
Oh yeah, good old Black Cat.
Mm-hmm. But and then I don't want to spoil it, but on the last page, people, if you were a fan of the Runaways, the Runaways series, you might like the last page.
Why? What's on the last page?
Well, if you want me to spoil it, spoiler alert. It's Alex Wilder, former runaway, aspiring crime boss, back from the dead.
Oh yeah, that was what's her name's old boyfriend?
Yeah, he kind of like acted as the leader in that first Runaway series until they found out he betrayed them.
Yeah. He had actually come back from the dead in that young where they did the Avengers Arena gang when they went to go face off against Arcade, and and Damon Hellstrom basically said, "Yeah, it's great with the evil magic because we can do whatever we want. There's no rules for evil magic." So of course, as Khaleesi found out, talk about that later.
All right, but yeah, that was a big thumbs up. It was good. Next, I wanted to go to Spider-Man Deadpool number 11 with a fill-in writer. I told you about this. This is the one written by Penn Jillette of Penn and Teller.
Hey, good old Penn.
And he put them in the comic. It's weird because it starts off with like Penn is like he's in Vegas. Well, it's the World Series of Poker, and he's playing against Deadpool, and they're already all in. And he tells Deadpool, "Well, if I win." He's like, you have to fill it. You and Teller get to change. You have to switch places for a week. So the whole thing is like, Penn's doing all these things, all these great tricks in Vegas, where he's like, "Oh, look, I can stab Teller through the chest with this sword," and of course it's Deadpool. So, but then Spider-Man has to fight a new villain with Teller, and he's like, "Deadpool, why aren't you talking?" He's like, "What's wrong with you?" Because he. But then after the week's over, then Spider-Man's like, "Oh, why can't you be quiet like last week?" And then everyone in Vegas is like telling Penn and Teller, "Do the trick again with the sword through the chest and all this stabbing stuff." It was good. It was good. I mean, he kept most of like the feel of the Deadpool story and stuff, but the only weird part was just like, it seems like every page or every other page he's like, "Oh, remember, this is Penn writing this. Remember, this is me, Penn, writing this." It's like, okay, we get it.
Yeah, well, he's breaking the fourth wall in reverse,
he even got into that towards the beginning when they're in the poker game. Here, let me see if I can find that. He's like, "Let me break the fourth wall." He's like, it's easy for a fictitious character. He's like, "But the real Penn Jillette is writing this, so I am the real Penn Jillette breaking the fourth wall as the character Penn Jillette."
Yes. Well, you realize what that means. Okay, so that means that now Penn Jillette is an actual person in the Marvel Universe. As such, he gets an entry in the handbook to the Marvel Universe, and the next time they do a great wizard battle to see who's going to be the next Sorcerer Supreme, Penn Jillette gets to show up. So, this his master plan is now revealed.
Oh man, let me see that Marvel handbook entry. But it was a thumbs up. It was pretty good. But the other Deadpool book was Deadpool Back in Black number 3.
Yay!
And this one was, of course, it's set in the 80s. Deadpool's still wearing the symbiote. But he runs it, like I said, last issue, it ended with him running into the Black Cat. And for some reason, she thinks it's still Spider-Man, even though it just looks like a black and white Deadpool.
Yeah, well, she doesn't wear her contacts, I guess, is the moral of that story.
I guess, but then they have to stop the White Rabbit and her killer bunnies. And then those alien bounty hunters find them, and they have to like kind of fight them. They fight them off until they retreat. I'm trying to think if what are some of the they always have at least one.
What I wonder about Deadpool and these past adventures is if he is retroactively altering continuity in this way, and I guess he is, because it is like official that he did associate with the symbiote first and all that kind of stuff. And I do wonder if there is like this quality to these stories that of Deadpool altering history in this way, and I do wonder if there is an aspect of it that is, Because I know we're getting evil Venom back, and I'm wondering if that feeds into what this story comes from. Just to give a little random thought.
Yeah, I'm wondering if they're gonna say that, if like the any evil the symbiote's done since day one is because of its contact with Deadpool, made it crazy.
Well, actually, I'm wondering on that because with the way the bounty hunters are treating it, it almost seems like actually, and this is a weird thing with the symbiote's history, which is this idea that he was imprisoned, and whether he was imprisoned because he was an evil symbiote or a good symbiote is morally questionable. And it is interesting how they might evolve or re-examine the character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting, and just it's so funny, set in the 80s, and guess on the last page, it looks like next issue he's gonna face a classic Spider-Man villain who's coming for him, who also I guess thinks it's Spider-Man. Guess who it is?
Doc Ock?
No, Kraven the Hunter.
Oh, good old Kraven. Oh, maybe this is going to tie into that Spider-Man Deadpool thing, since the last time they fought in the 90s was with Kraven and Weasel and them.
Yeah.
Maybe he's going to cross paths with his future self. Ooh.
I don't know, because that was he time traveled. He's kind of basically in a Spider-Man comic from I think the late 60s. So I wonder if he'll make reference to he's already encountered but he hasn't time traveled yet. Oh, I got a headache.
Well, yeah, but that would be see that's what they need, since Deadpool has time traveled for him to meet his younger self. And what would be really cool is if his older self doesn't remember the current adventure he's on.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, wait, I had a what now? A symbiote? What are you talking about? You could get some real triple levels of meta there. That's all I'm saying.
But it was funny. It's a thumbs up. But would you like to do one? Would you like to do one of your books?
Yeah. You know what? Let's open up with Black Panther: World of Wakanda. Coates, Gray, and was it Harvey is doing the words on this, words and pictures. So. Okay, where to start? So this is basically going to be the story of Anika and Ayo, who are Midnight Angels, the rebel. Actually, you have a pronunciation for it in here somewhere. The Dora Maluja or something like that. Yeah, I believe it's Dora Maluja. Because I always give it a much more French pronunciation. I always give the Dora Malage, but you actually are supposed to pronounce each vowel individually. So it's like Dora Mulaje. We open up. Anika is sort of the captain who is in charge of training the new recruits. Of course, one of the new recruits is Ayo. We also see that there's the tough as nails headmistress by the name of Zola. And immediately Ayo and Akia get this whole butting heads, but gee, you're cute kind of thing. Which, of course, here's what I'm going to say about this first story. It's kind of pat. It's a kind of pat romantic story. When we get to the end of it, Roxanne does say in the letters page, she does really want to tell these kick butt superhero stories. And I think she's sort of working in that. I think she wants to get there. But I do think this is a bit of a universe building issue where we get to see how Akia and Ayo first sort of get together. We get a nice mix of other characters. We find out there's one girl who's just really good at knowing everyone's secrets. So, because she's not as good at fighting, she's not as good at training, but man, she can tell you here's how everyone else is achieving. Here's how everyone else is doing better. Because rather than actually doing emulating their habits, she just is ready. Just getting all the gossip. And Zola takes her under her wing, or to sort of, I will train you individually, and you will be my nice little spy within the group. And we do get that, Akia or Anika and Io are having this thing, and it's very interesting. Like I said, I'm assuming all the girls are over 18 in this. And this is the problem for me in this, is it does creep me out, this idea of the teacher and the student forming the relationship. It really does. I know they're probably relatively close in age,
Mm-hmm.
but it feels like, and yes, it very much is set up that Ao is the aggressor. Although what's his name? The character from it's not, is it Humperdinck or Rupert? I forget his name. The character from Lolita, also feels that he was seduced,
Mm-hmm.
So it always creeps me out, even when they have the younger person seduce the older person. It always makes me feel a little creepy about it. But it's cute. They do show their relationship. We show that this is basically taking place just before AVX. The team is out tracking down some Atlantean spies. They take them out with extreme prejudice. It's all male Atlanteans, which I guess is fine. Although it does have a bit of a boys versus girls quality to it. But they murder all the Atlanteans. They look for more, and then of course, Anika gets shot. Io bandages her up, and then there is basically, okay, this is actually before that. They each, all the girls graduate. They get their little markings to say they are now members of the Dora Milaje, and they all get their assignments. And they're toasting, and then we find out that Namor is flooding Atlantis, or flooding the Golden City. And for what it is always an interesting thing whenever Namor uses it. Well, okay, he has the Phoenix Force here, so that's it. But he's like caused tidal waves before. And it's always like we're like, where does that power come from that he can just like make tidal waves?
Yeah.
But basically, everyone gets onto a building and they realize, this is bad. So I guess our next issues are going to be exploring this adventure as they deal with Namor and the attack on Wakanda and the Golden City. We get a nice bit here about the history of Wakanda and Naganda, which of course feels that Wakanda stole their fertile farmlands, which is why Wakanda was strong and Naganda was weak. And we deal with our Mind Witch from the earlier episodes, who basically we get her story growing up in Naganda and basically being a member of this country that is next to Wakanda, that is, impoverished. Well, Wakanda is rich, and how Wakandans look down their nose at anyone who isn't Wakandan. And we get this really great story of power and privilege, and why, how people are separated. And she basically comes into Wakanda as a refugee, and we see that she falls in with this crowd of sort of rabble rousers, and who after the flooding of the Golden City, they basically are saying, this is what, after that is when people start saying, we cannot rely on the king does not protect us, we need to protect ourselves, we should rule ourselves, yada yada yada. And we see her being accosted by some young Wakandan ruffians, but we see that her power drains her. And then she comes to meet the the shaman who basically says, "I am free, and would you like to be free as well? Would you like to free yourself?" is what he says, and that is how they form their bond. That was a much better story. I mean, from a real exciting aspect of it, it was a much better story than the first story we got. But this is Roxane Gay's first comic book. I am going to grade her on a curve. It was a decent story. It was, it had a nice mix of what you might find in a nice romance comic with a nice sort of super spy twist, and it's sort of Red Room training kind of thing. Basically, it felt like if Millie the Model was in a Black Widow book. It's basically what came up to me. It was sweet. It was nice. In the end, it wasn't as much as I had hoped it would be, but the backup story definitely. Recently we've had a lot of things where the first story is strong and the backup is just sort of filler. This one, the backup story really had the strength, and the first story, we're getting our sea legs. So I give the book a thumbs up overall. Definitely a bigger thumb up at the end, but it's not even a thumb to the side on the first one. It's the first story is just an okay story. Mm-hmm. The second story really is where you get your $4.99 worth.
So thumbs up overall.
Oh, thumbs up overall, yeah.
Okay.
I gave it 4 stars.
Very good. All right, then I guess I will go to Daredevil number 13. This is a big blind spot issue, Charlie, because
oh boy.
Yeah, remember Daredevil's with the Inhumans, and Blind Spot called him and said, "Oh, the bad guy's here. He's like in the courtroom," and I guess they're calling him Muse. I kind of liked Vincent Van Gogh, but I guess they're going with Muse because Daredevil says, he's very dangerous. He's a killer, and he tells Blind Spot thinks to himself, Daredevil, he told me there are rules. Don't die. Don't let anyone else die. You follow both if you can. So
there you go. That's how you be a superhero.
Yeah, Muse. He stabs a guard. He stabs a cop. He takes off with the judge. Blind Spot follows him into the sewers. I guess Muse took the judge, the female politician. I forget her name, and 2 cops hostage because he said they were the ones who were going to shut down his exhibit with all the blood on the walls and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he and then it looks like he stabs one of the guards or something, but eventually Blind Spot lures Muse into another tunnel, and then he tells the hostages to run. And it seems like both the cops are alive, so they lead the judge and the lady politician up. Blind Spot says, because they're worried about him, he says, "Don't worry about me, I can turn invisible." But guess what, Charlie? His suit runs out of batteries.
Oh, no, not the confound it, the batteries are dead.
And I guess...
What's that from? Batman, it's the 1966 Batman movie.
Oh, yes. But, so the issue ends with, I guess Blind Spot called Daredevil again, but, Muse pulls Blind Spot into the sewers, and the last thing we see is just his phone and Daredevil saying, "Blind Spot, are you there? Blind Spot." So I don't know if...
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah, I don't know if they red-shirted him or not, but...
I hope not. We just got this character. Let's not kill him already.
I know. But it was good. For an issue with limited Daredevil, it was good. It was a thumbs up for me.
Yay. Okay.
All right, then I guess I will go to my pick of the week, Amazing Spider-Man Renew Your Vows #1.
Ooh, how was that? I did not get the chance to read it.
It was good. If you get a chance, you should read this. If anyone who likes classic Spider-Man, you'll enjoy this because it's, in this, I guess, this parallel universe or whatever, he's, it's just like in Secret Wars. He's married. He's, the Mary Jane. They have Annie, their daughter. But he's working at the Daily Bugle now.
Now, just out of curiosity, does this take place in a post, what's his name? Post Regent world?
Yes.
Or it is. So does this follow in like this is what happened to that world after the events in Secret Wars, though possibly without the we know about Doom quality,
Yeah,
or is this
yeah, because they mention because there is a scene with the wreckage of Regent's lab and stuff, and yeah, there's no mention of Doom. So yeah, I'm assuming yeah, just like exactly like you said, it's that world minus the whole Doom factor.
cool?
But yeah, so Peter's working at the Daily Bugle, so no Parker Tech or anything like that. But he has been inventive. He's swinging to the scene of there's something happening at Regent's lab, so he swings out. But he's like he was getting sick of getting all these setting up his automatic camera and getting all these shots of his butt. So he created this little drone thing that it's supposed to follow him, and no matter how he moves, it's supposed to follow him at a certain level, at a certain thing, and take pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's helpful.
Yeah, it's a camera drone. He calls it Buzzbee.
Very cute.
So there was something happening at Regent's lab, and then guess who comes out of the ground, Charlie?
Who comes round?
Well, popping out of the ground first is the Moloids, and then at the end of the issue, the Mole Man.
Oh, good old Mold Man.
But so yeah, so Annie has powers, but now Mary Jane kind of has powers. You know how they did that, Charlie?
Radioactive semen.
Oh, come on! No, I guess she's wearing some kind of.
That's how they killed her in one book. I don't know.
Well, Peter gave her a version of Regent's suit so she can kind of like tap into Peter's powers, I guess.
Oh, okay. Actually, there would have been a much cooler way to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Is that when a woman has a child, they actually get stem cells from that baby in their system, and they stay in their system their whole life. That's why I say, like, Sharon should actually have a little bit of super soldier serum in her because she was pregnant with Steve's baby, so that those baby stem cells are still in her body. And, maybe that's why she's getting younger again after turning into Agatha Harkness for a week there.
But then there's like two little backups: the Earnest Adventures of Spider Dad, which is really cute, and then yeah, it's Peter and Annie. But then and then the second one is I don't know, did they give this a title? I don't even know. But it's Annie, and she's helping Mary Jane put together her superhero costume, and then the rhino busts in for some reason. I was looking for cash, but Mary Jane's wearing the Regent suit, and Annie's helping her, and they defeat the Rhino. So when the cops pick up the Rhino says he tells the cops he was up against all the Avengers, the big guys, huge weapons.
Oh, Rhino!
But then the last page reveals, I guess in this world, the clothing shop they were in. I guess it was Mary Jane must have owned this clothing shop.
Yeah, I remember that. That was in. Oh, that's actually in the Spider-Girl series. Mary Jane started licensing out fashions based on Spider-Man, and because what she said was people were always already making these, and figured, well, why shouldn't we get a piece of this pie? And started making her own Spider-Man themed fashions.
Ooh, I wonder if they're ever going to cross timelines, and we're going to have Spider-Girl team ups with Annie and May.
I hope so, little sister. She always wanted a little sister, and now she's got one, even though it's kind of technically herself.
Little sister? No, one's Annie, one's May. Little sister from another dimension.
Yes. I'm looking forward to that. And I was actually just thinking that, And maybe they can even address whether or not the Spider-Girl universe got separated before the end of the universes, thanks to Otto Octavius cutting the strands of the universe.
Oh, well, like I said, Renew Your Vows is my pick of the week. I can't recommend this highly enough, especially if you're a fan of Peter and Mary Jane's marriage and like the classic Spider-Man stories, him working at the Bugle and stuff. But you talked about Otto Octavius. Let's get to it. Clone Conspiracy number 2.
Oh, this was a good one.
Oh, yeah. And Charlie Esser was wrong. The Jackal is not the Scarlet Spider, because we see Kane as the Scarlet Spider.
Although, I was thinking about this too.
Hmm.
Well, no, I guess that doesn't necessarily work either. If Miles Warren had cloned himself a Parker body,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure. Anyway,
There
so,
has to be something from with that face because they're still not showing it. There has to be.
yeah, yeah. There's something more there.
Mm-hmm.
And he's definitely not. He's definitely not old. He's definitely not the Miles Warren from the 1970s with the mustache. Although I do like the line he says about how it's better that his new look is better than Fuzzy Yoda in a speedo.
Yes. So did you enjoy the whole scene with Otto with him basically telling Peter, "Yeah, you idiot, I'm the real Otto."
Yes. Oh yeah, no, it was great. It was a great take on Otto. Now, of course, like I say, saying he's the real Otto is a very complex question because what he is he's a copy of Otto that was printed on Parker's brain and then printed to a hard drive. You know, and as I've said, I personally think that Peter Parker was far more the superior Spider-Man than he ever wants to let on.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because you have to remember that there used to be a whole line with Otto, which was that before the accident, he was actually a very sweet and pleasant guy.
Mm-hmm.
You saw that in the movie. You saw that in a lot of the old cartoons. The idea that he was kind of an evil person didn't come about until this version of him that he had always been evil. But again, in that sense, if we play on this idea that it's overwritten on Parker's brain and Parker is by his nature evil,
Mm-hmm.
as we've said, what does he want to do with his powers? Make money. Doesn't even want to be a superhero. He just wants to go out, get fame, fortune, and money.
Mm-hmm.
And it's only because someone that it was close to him died. If someone else had been murdered by that mugger, he probably wouldn't have become a superhero.
Mm-hmm.
If he had just found out, oh wow, that mugger actually killed somebody. Oh, that's awful. And then maybe he might start superheroing as a night job,
Mm-hmm.
or a day job, but he'd still be doing the shows and making the money. The only reason why he's a hero is because something affected him personally on that personal level. So Parker's evil. That's what I'm saying. J. Jonah Jameson was right. That Spider-Man's a menace.
Yeah, but I just think that the process to put him back in this version of his body kind of maybe got rid of all the Parkerness. And I mean, he was a copy of a copy to begin with. He got killed in the '90s by Kane, and then his another computerized, another digital version of his brain was put back in his resurrected body. So he's been a copy of a copy for a while.
So he's not even Otto anymore.
No.
He's nothing.
And then Spider-Gwen takes the real Gwen's place.
Oh yeah, that was cool. I like that. And what I loved about that was that they were hinting at that the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Where he's like, and that's what was great about it was he says, all the clones trigger my spider sense. Why aren't you?
Mm-hmm.
And of course he's seeing the other clones, and he knows the other clones are triggering his spider sense. And then it's like, I know you're not who you say you are.
Mm-hmm.
But what I really liked about this was we find out what's actually really the problem with New You.
Oh, the last page?
Well, really the first page.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we find out what the problem is. We see the problem on the first page. We find out that it's related to New You on the last page.
Mm-hmm. I just the whole thing when Kane says, "Yeah, Peter destroys the world." I just heard you saying, "I knew it."
That Spider-Man's a menace. I've said so a million times.
J. Jonah Esser. But yeah, it was really good. Both Spider-Man books were really good this week.
Mm-hmm. Yes. For those who didn't read the book, New You, that basically cloning people eventually turns everyone into zombies.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Which is not good.
So anyone read this, and Charlie, when you get a chance, read it. Read Renew Your Vows. I think you'll really enjoy it. All right. Let's get to Invincible Iron Man #1.
Yay! That was a good book.
So yeah, it was really good. The first full issue of Riri Williams.
Yeah. Although it was kind of interesting when we get to the end, but we'll get to that in a minute. But I really liked in the opening bit about how there used to be genius, now we have super genius. Mm-hmm. You don't have to be a super genius to realize what that means. Just this. And what I also liked in that was the child psychiatrist saying, "I've dealt with this before." Basically saying, yeah, we get 4 or 5 super geniuses wandering through this, wandering through my office, every couple of years, it happens, just sort of giving this idea that idea of super geniusness is so prevalent throughout the Marvel universe right now.
Mm.
And I like that. Anyway, why don't you tell the story, Phil?
Well, I mean, like you said, it starts with a flashback to, Riri's parents being told, she's a super genius. Then it flashes to the present where she's, in Wyoming. She's fighting, I forget the name of this villain.
Like Animax?
Something, yeah. She basically throwing monsters or something at her.
Yeah. Basically, she can create sort of golems, like golem monsters from her own DNA. Not quite sure how that works, but we'll go along with it.
Mm-hmm. Then they flash to 5 years ago when Riri was building something in her garage, and she meets her new friend Natalie.
Mm-hmm.
Then back to the present, more fighting. Then 2 years ago, we get the tragic hero origin, Charlie.
Oh yeah.
Riri's stepfather and her friend Natalie are killed in a drive-by.
Yeah. There was this great aspect of this whole thing. Because it actually reminded me, we just did an episode on the Gamma Cast called The Brainchild, where essentially, David runs into this super genius character by the name of Jolene. And you get this idea in that story about how, in that story, it is this idea that, in that story, the mother gives up the super genius child because she realizes she couldn't teach her anything. But of course, as the doctor says here, what you need to teach this child is how to be human, and how to, even though she has the super brain, she has to develop her emotional, and her emotional development is just as important, and she doesn't have a hyper advanced emotional intelligence. She has the same emotional intelligence as any child, and you have to help her develop that. Mm-hmm. And of course, that was the theme in The Brainchild, which is that, in the end, the mother realizes when Jolene does track down her mother that, that was what she had to learn from her all along, was I need someone to teach me how to be a human, Mm-hmm. But then, of course, you have that counterbalance in this universe where this is a common occurrence, and the stepfather feeling he has to tell his daughter it's a beautiful day every day, or she's going to turn into Dr. Doom. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it was very cool that way. It was a really good book. It was really good story. Had they pulled it for me, this would probably have been my pick of the week.
But yeah, so in the end, she's complaining to her mother that, her armor's not good enough because she needs an AI, and she can't build an AI. So guess what, Charlie? One gets delivered.
Yep. And who's our new AI?
Tony Stark, the man won't die.
No. And here's my prediction. Reed called Tony up to the Beyond. It says, Tony, I need your advice on some of these physics. We're having trouble with it. So they bring in Tony. Yeah, it was cool. Although what weirded me out there was, so is Tony not Doom's AI now? Because we saw Tony's AI in the end of the Doom story, when Doom steals the thing, is Doom just going to have his own AI?
I think what it was Doom broke into one of his armories, and I think a version of Tony's AI was in the armory.
Yeah.
So I mean, unless Doom like somehow downloads him against his will or whatever, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we'll find out next week. Cause I believe issue 2 of that comes out next week.
Yay! This time I'll buy it.
You better. I think it's this issue, but I know Ben Grimm's coming sooner or later.
Oh yeah, well I love my Ben Grimm, man.
Mm-hmm.
Agent of Shield.
That's right. All right, so big thumbs up on Invincible Iron Man #1.
Very good. Okay. Do you have any more books on your own, or
no?
Okay, so let me get to my last book on my own. The unbelievable Gwenpool. She's Gwenpool. She's Gwenpool. She really wants to be your friend. Just loading it right now. So, when last we left our intrepid heroine, she was talking to no one in particular, but she's certain she's the star of this book. And basically recapping that, she's dealing with that. So basically, when last we left Deadpool, she was on a platform, a subway platform in New York City. The Thulians were going to execute her. The cops are trying to arrest her. The subway has stopped, and we see a bunch of folks from the Marvel bullpen who we have seen before, all on that subway, complaining about what we're stopping just because there's a bunch of squid monsters. We're not stopping at this station just because there's a bunch of squid monsters on the platform. Come on, this is New York City. And Gwenpool decides to do a superhero leap onto the moving train, onto the back of it, as the cops tell her to freeze, and she rides off into the sunset. We then see her getting sort of healed by Megatony, because I really grabbing onto a subway train moving at top speed. I probably should have stretched first, but he's using his healing beam to heal up her hands. Tony's getting called by his student loan officers because he's way behind in paying his student loans back. 21st century problems. Then, and of course, what's funny is right now the MODOK pod is upside down, so everything's upside down as everyone walks in there, all the rooms. But she walks into the Terrible Eyes room, and it's just Sarah sitting there, little goth Sarah. She doesn't have her eye helmet on. And she's like all normal, and she's been having a good talk with Cecil because he says that I've never met many ghosts before, and he says I've never met many ghosts either, and they have a good laugh. And Gwenpool's a little weirded out, and Sarah's basically saying the terrible eye opens, makes me see things on a whole other level. But I like to take it off from time to time. But when I do take it off, I don't have my awareness, because she was talking about how she used to talk to last time she saw Gwenpool, Gwenpool saw her, she was talking to her rocks, and he's saying, well, yeah, that's because rocks are he says, well, I don't really know at the moment. I just don't have the faculty. Maybe when I'm back in character, referring to when she puts the terrible eye on. Basically, they come up with this idea. They have to defeat the Thulians. And Gwenpool's idea is she's going to lure the Thulians to Times Square and just start shooting people randomly. And their way to avoid the police showing up is, first off, Batroc is going to attack the UN, and then Cecil is going to screw up all of the dispatch computers at 911 to send all the cops off after fake crimes, and then Terrible Eye is going to create a bunch of illusions all over Manhattan for the cops to chase, and what I love about this is Batroc says, look, I don't question the power. I don't necessarily agree, believe the way you describe your powers, but I fully observe the fact that you probably have this power. You say, that you are that you have this Deus ex machina power going on. And he says, no. Because basically, Batroc says we can't send all the cops in New York City off on off on wild goose chases. What if some people will get hurt? And of course, Gwenpool says, "Really, that's your problem with my plan? You're afraid of the cops?" Says, "No. Well, I do not necessarily believe in the origin of your mysterious ability to win. I have not been able to find a reason to argue with your strange logic. You defeated MODOK after all, but this is irresponsible." And then basically she explains how cops are unnecessary in this world, that, you wouldn't need superheroes if the cops are all competent. And the fact of the matter is you don't need the cops at all because, you just don't. But then when she goes to Times Square, she realizes the cops are still hanging out there. And basically the other guys have sort of thwarted her plans. And then Vic shows up, and he's basically explaining to her, that is not the quiet world that we're trying to maintain here. You shooting all the Thulians in the middle of Times Square, that's not gonna achieve what I want. Now I see that the Tethudians are not the problem. You are. So I gave them the MODOK team so they may fulfill their revenge, then leave Earth. It was a far more peaceful solution than yours. It says, but I thought they were mad at me, not the team. It says, oh, they hate all of you, and I'll be handing you over as well. But first, I wanted to talk to you about this world without superheroes you came from. That sounds marvelous. And then Gwen shoots him in the face. Blam! And she says, come on, Cecil. He goes, yeah, let's. And then the guy gets up and goes, are you rigor mortising me? And he grabs Gwenpool's hand and she says, are you rigor mortising me right now? Or I didn't kill you and you've got that scared mom level adrenaline happening? And then he says, fool! And what's behind his mask of a face, Phil? A Doombot. Bum, bum, bum. Vic was a Doombot the whole time. Big thumbs up for Gwenpool. I really love Gwenpool. It is one of my favorite books. Actually, I gave this one 5 stars. Is this my pick of the week? I don't know. Now that I think about it, really, it was great. It was a really great book, and I do like that aspect of it. It's between this and Captain America, but Captain America was real good too. Although you know what? Okay, I'm gonna say it. Gwenpool was my pick of the week because Captain America does have a couple flaws that are bugging me, but we'll talk about that with Captain America. And that was my last book, but yeah, Gwenpool will be my pick of the week.
All right.
It was a good book. As always, I love Gwenpool. She's unbelievable.
Dun, dun, dun. All right. Well, you want to do Captain America Steve Rogers #7 so you can get that off your chest?
Oh, sure. So let's do Captain America Steve Rogers numero 7. Okay. So when last we left our intrepid hero, actually we start off in 1935 where Stevie is just the teacher's pet. And this is actually very cool. Because, again, in this, we're getting this bond between the origins of S.H.I.E.L.D. and the origins of Hydra. And we have Fenhoff standing here, and he says, and so Zheng Heng climbed to the top of the temple to confront the Golden Celestial, the shield in the west, the spear in the east. But his servant had many doubts. Still, Zheng He was unbowed. Can any of you tell me what it is written the master said? And one of the kids says, cut off one limb, 2 more shall take its place. And Finhoff says, no, Matthew. I'm afraid that is not the correct answer. Anyone else? And Steve says, this is not how the world ends. Correct, Steve. Now, if you read Hickman's Shield series, that was the catchphrase of the Brotherhood of the Shield. This is not how the world ends. Yeah, which is, of course, what led into our whole thing with the Secret Wars and, the incursions and how the world truly did end. And then how it began. We see that the young men are not too happy with prized pupil Stephen Rogers, the little scrawny runt who has been asked to introduce the new recruits. And so they are going to plot their revenge against him for only the strong survive in Hydra. And then we get a nice scene with Selvig and Cap, and you get this really great, like I said, you get this. What is Hydra supposed to be? What is Hydra? And and it comes in, and especially when you come to this idea of the joining of Hydra and Shield as a group, as a couple of entities. This idea that we know Shield is often evil. And maybe in this upside-down, topsy-turvy universe, Hydra can be good. And, of course, we have the Red Skull trying to make Sokovia great again. We go to Sokovia. We see all the problems with Sokovia, that Hydra has come in and is defeating the general, and everyone is hailing Hydra. Because, hey, they are liberators, and meanwhile, Sharon Carter is back at the U.S. saying S.H.I.E.L.D. will not tolerate Hydra taking over a town, or taking over Sokovia. And then we cut to a nice scene with Cap sort of fighting his way through a bunch of Sokovian prison guards, and the Black Widow at his side. We cut back, and we see Steve getting beat up by the bullies. Cut back to the future, the war against the war for Sokovia. We see the general being thrown into a room where the Red Skull is, where basically the Red Skull makes them a deal. You're going to defeat Hydra. You're going to push us back to the Northern Territories, because that way then the S.H.I.E.L.D. will come to us, and we will fight them on our terms, because we are not yet strong enough to fight them on their terms. And of course, the general is like, and basically, the Red Skull says, "Look, right now, I can make you dance the ballet across the room with your revolver in your mouth. I can do that. I have the power. That's not what I want to do." And he says, "Now we'll buy you a few," and he says, and of course the Skull says, "And when I am finished with S.H.I.E.L.D., I will kill you." And he's like, "Well, why would I go along with this?" And he says, "Because you'll get an extra day of breath." Yeah. And men have sold out far more for far less time than I'm going to give you. And of course, you will plot and plan against me. Just know that that's not going to do you any good. Meanwhile, we see that who Cap and Widow were trying to free was this general who led the original revolution in Sokovia before the bad guy general took over. He's been in prison for decades, but he's been freed because he is going to be the face of the revolution. He said, we can't help the other guy, but we can help him. And, it's interesting to see, are they playing into the Red Skull's hands, or are they outflanking him in their own way? But we do cut back to Steve getting himself punished, and he says, "I can do this all day." Mm-hmm. And then who in the rafters, leaping down from the rafters, should come to his aid? A little boy who beats the heck out of the other kids. And, Steve says, "We will need allies in the future," talking to Selvig, and now it's time to show him what was behind the forbidden door. And Phil, what was behind the forbidden door? And who came to his aid in 1938?
The same answer that I'm sure is boggling your mind too. Helmut Zemo.
Yeah, Helmut Zemo. I love Helmut Zemo being there. I do not get Helmut Zemo being alive in 1930. He was not a contemporary of Steve. He was a later child, a baby boomer, if you will. He was born after the war by most countings that we've had of Helmut. See, if they had made Heinrich Zemo his friend, that would actually make a little sense.
Yeah, because I was about to say, what about the age difference? Wouldn't he be an old man? But you could explain that away. Do you remember the end of the original Thunderbolt series? Zemo and some of the Thunderbolts were on the Heroes Reborn Earth, and they found Zemo's body. I think he'd already been killed, but Fixer had saved a copy of the brain, and he inserted it into the younger, unscarred version of Zemo from that Earth.
Yeah, and I mean, it is entirely possible. I mean, there's ways you can work around it. What bothers me is that prior to this, Helmut wasn't born in the 1930s. That's basically.
I guess
prior to this,
you could say he still might not have been born in the 30s. That might just be the memory that Kobik gave him. I mean, who says next issue Steve walks in that room and is like, starts talking to Zemo about their childhood, and Zemo looks at him like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, although, it's very weird. Yeah, exactly what Kobik is doing is not yet clear, but we're going to have to find out. But I liked it, and I liked that reveal at the end. And like I said, it fits into how they've played Helmut, because they have played Helmut within the... And for what it's worth, maybe... when Kobik made these changes, she didn't change things as much as people think.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I say, maybe there always had been this ennobled version of Hydra. That Hydra was not intrinsically evil, just that evil men had command in Hydra. In a similar way to the idea that maybe, Hydra was not, or in the same way that S.H.I.E.L.D. is not inherently good. And at times, evil men have taken over S.H.I.E.L.D., So, and of course, repeatedly, Nick Fury had found that Hydra and S.H.I.E.L.D. were actually, in some ways, associated in ways that he couldn't quite understand. And if you do have it date all the way back to the Brotherhood of the S.H.I.E.L.D., and as I've often theorized, that Newton is the founder of Hydra, which we may get because, of course, we are going to be getting... Newton in the new Sorcerer Supreme series. We're going to have to see. Okay. But yeah, thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
You want to do our last book here, Phil? Oh, and next issue is The Trial of Maria Hill.
Yeah, that's going to go well.
I'm guessing so, because it's the gavel with her face reflected in it.
Mm-hmm. All right, then. Our final issue is Uncanny Avengers number 16.
Yay! This was a good book.
Basically starts with Deadpool hallucinating, but he wakes up. Him and the other Avengers are trying to take down the resurrected Hulk.
Yeah.
And Johnny Storm tells him, call Cable.
Call Cable. He's waking up.
But his iPhone's not working, so he says, maybe the hand could resurrect Steve Jobs so I can kill him.
Yeah. But he reaches out with his mind, and we see the various ways they're trying to take down the Hulk. How effective are their ways of taking down the Hulk, Phil?
Well, like they say, they wasted their one good option on the Hank Pym Ultron a couple issues back.
Yeah. It's like, don't you have a contingency plan for Hulk? Yes, and we used it. Now we need another contingency plan.
He thought he was dead. So yeah, then Cable's AI actually informs him of the battle, and he teleports there, and he almost gets Sebastian Shaw and Toad to help, but then they see what the Avengers are fighting. They're like, nah, it's okay.
Yeah, but we do get an interesting point in this, which is that when they are talking. Sorry, let me get back to that scene. Sebastian Shaw and Toad are asking him, like, why do you care what Captain America thinks? And he says, because he's Captain America. And you can see it really hurts him that Captain America didn't like him. And what that tells me is at least in Cable's mind, Cap wasn't Hydra. But he doesn't know that Cap was Hydra. So does no one ever find out that Cap was Hydra? Does Cap just stay Hydra forever, but in his kinder, gentler Hydra?
Or I mean, the whole thing with Cap is Kobik's involved. Does Kobik being a cosmic cube kind of funky up the timeline? Or since Secret Wars destroyed everything and put everything back together, does Cable now not know the future?
Maybe, or along those same lines, maybe in Cable's history there was no Kobik. Yes. So in the future that Cable comes from, there was no Steve Rogers Hydra. So all of his memories of this, because of course, remember, the universe was just recreated, and as you said with the X-Men comic, maybe when Beast went back, he was already there. Mm-hmm. And he realized that something had happened, and that's why they can't go back.
Yeah. Plus, I think it was around 1,000 years in the future they sent Cable to, so he might not have all the details.
Yeah, that might have been forgotten. The good of Captain America probably outweighed that week he was Hydra.
Yes.
Who hasn't had a drunken bender when they went and joined Hydra? We've all been there.
And we'll talk about Charlie Esser's drunken bender on the new Super Connectivity.
Yes. Anyway, so how do they decide to defeat the Hulk?
Well, they meet up with Elektra, but Brother Voodoo says he's gonna do some looking for the exact, what does he say? He said he needed an isolated location in 10 minutes.
Yeah. Although, for what it's worth in this, because they do say when Elektra says basically in order to kill the beast, you have to burn it out. And they're like, well, isn't that what Johnny Storm does all the time? Mm-hmm. And, and they're like, well, but isn't the Hulk like fireproof or at least fire retardant, Huh? And it's an interesting question. Could the Hulk survive a Nova Blast? Because obviously that's the way you deal it. You have Johnny Storm go up against the Hulk and just give him a Nova Blast. Would that destroy Hulk?
Yeah, I think if any part, I don't know. Well, I was gonna say he's not Deadpool, but I mean he'd probably regenerate from. I know he's had his skin like seared off and then like grew.
Oh yeah. He's come back from a lot of crazy stuff in recent decades. You
have to like vaporize him completely.
Yeah. Although it actually makes me wonder if Johnny Storm has ever used a Nova Blast on the Hulk, because they have come to blows in the past, the Fantastic Four and the Hulk. So,
or if they're worried about why couldn't Cable just like teleport him into the sun?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Really. Let's be honest here. Yeah. I mean, the whole have we tried throwing the Hulk into the sun yet? Of all the things you could do with the Hulk, why don't we just throw him into the sun? Because in the worst case scenario, he's stuck on the sun.
Yeah.
Like that's the absolute worst case scenario. Is he's in the sun and his, and yeah, even if he does survive it, that's fine. He's stuck on the sun. That's the biggest gravity well in our solar system. I don't think the Hulk can leap off of it. And if he does, what are the odds that he's going to make it back to Earth? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
There's 2 other planets he's got to go through. He's got to get off the sun at just the right angle. It's not going to be easy. That's all I'm saying. I don't even know how solid the surface of the sun is. Really, I mean, it's a radioactive gas. I don't know if it if he pushes down with his feet, if he's just going to sink deeper into the sun. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Plus, like you said, gravitational pull and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Why don't they just throw the Hulk into the sun? I guess because maybe they feel it would be really cruel if he did survive, because you've literally sent him to heck.
Yeah. But don't they just think he's like a mindless zombie at this point?
Well, right now, yeah. This Hulk, yes. This Hulk into the sun.
Yeah, I'm talking about.
I don't think anyone's gonna. No one's gonna care if this Hulk goes to the sun. If the Sentry was here, he'd throw the Hulk into the sun. Okay. But yeah, Voodoo prepares this ritual to basically magic up the Hulk, and Rogue punches the Hulk, but kind of misses where she wanted him to land. And where does he land?
Oh, in a nuclear power plant.
Yeah, that was poor planning on their part.
Because they don't have Steve Rogers.
Yeah, well, he is the tactical genius on the team. Okay. And that was that episode. What'd you think, Phil?
What, that issue?
Yeah.
Oh, really good. Thumbs up all the way.
Oh yeah. I like the Uncanny Avengers. I'm glad they're continuing on right now. I don't know how many more we have till the end of it, but I'm glad it's existing. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and I like Deadpool in this team. You know, I like people dealing with Deadpool, and Deadpool actually having to be somewhat serious at times. You know.
Oh yeah.
It's pretty good. You know. So yeah, thumbs up for me too on that one.
Thumbs up.
Okay.
All right, that's it. Before I do social media, we have to go. But check out this week's Super Connectivity with another special guest. Second week in a row, we have a guest, Charlie.
Yes, I know. And this is one of you lucky listeners out there who just asked, and so now he gets to be on the show. Who can be on Super Connectivity if he just asks. We're nice guys. Like, sure, why not? Come on.
I can hear Stockton Piner writing his email right now.
Go for it, Stockton. You're always welcome at our house.
That's right. All right. If you want to talk comics with us, you can email us, marvelroundup@gmail.com. Facebook is all new Marvel Roundup. Twitter is @Marvel_Roundup. And our Instagram is Marvel Roundup. So check those out. And Charlie, where can people find your knowledge?
Well, you can always follow me on the Twitters, in the Twitterverse, as the kids do nowadays, at CharlieEsser. Look for the 2 E's in the middle for quality. And, of course, write to me in that old-fashioned email way, the way our mas and pas once did as they traveled the Oregon Trail, at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, @gmail.com.
And as always, you can discuss anything Marvel or DC with me, nightwingpdp@gmail.com. On Twitter, I am @nightwingpdp. I'm also on the Before the Bat podcast, The Legends of DC, with many people, including Charlie Esser. And on this feed, on what?
Hey, I'm on that one.
That's right. And on this feed, check out... my Devin Grayson interview just went up as we were recording this the same day, so check that out.
So awesome.
Yeah, check it out. Really good about her Doctor Strange novel.
Cannot wait to read it.
All right. Everyone, that's it for this week. We got to go talk to Kenneth Smyson. So until next week, everyone. I don't know. What was I gonna say? I had a line prepared this morning. Oh, I know. Come back next week, everyone. More shocks and thrills. And we finally reveal Charlie Esser is a Skrull. Good night.
Ah!
Dun, dun, dun.